In this video, we're going to be going through the steps and processes of the RFP inclusion service. We're going to look at completing your data form before the RFP season starts, how to respond to email invites, and how to approve bids for submission. RFP Inclusion is a service that supports hotels with RFP completion. It takes away a lot of the repetitive work of completing RFPs, and as such leaves you with just the important things that need to be taken care of. You maintain control over your rates and the ability to offer different things to different clients, while at the same time saving time on all of the repetitious elements of working through an RFP season. Once you've subscribed to RFP Inclusion, we'll send you a data form which you will fill out, and we use this information to complete RFPs for you on your behalf. So it's important that you put the right information on here and that you take time to check that what you're adding here is going to be correct for all of your clients. Some things, of course, will change, things like breakfast, inclusion of internet, and we will come to how you will address those different needs for different clients. But for now, we'll just have a look at what each of these 5 sheets does. So the first 2 are basically recreations of bids. They are the Lanyon tab and the rate finding tab. Both of these have a long list of questions, or not so much for the rate finding one, but the Lanyon one contains a long list of questions that you do need to complete and send that information back to us. Number of the fields are limited in the kinds of answers you can give, and the type of answer that you can give is listed in column G. If you're not sure quite what's being asked in any particular field, say for example property description, you can just mouse over and you'll see that there's a comment that has a description of what goes into that field. You'll see that all of these fields have a question explanation for them. Some numbers are some fields are limited by what you can enter. So if we attempt to add a word here, we will find that there's an error because what we need to enter is a number, and this field will validate to check that you are entering a number. On the rate finding one, it's much the same, except you will not get a comment with an answer with an explanation of what's being asked. So you do need to check through the actual question field, and you'll see that in some cases additional information is given in there which tells you the sorts of answers that are being expected that would be acceptable. On the 2018 consortia sheet, you'll find a list of potential consortia that are available for the upcoming year. So they've got the names here, we've got some guide costs, and in the comments here there are sometimes additional conditions for participation. So in the case of Der Hotel, this is a free consortium to take part in, but you must offer a minimum of 10% commission. And if we have a look at, say, Fedrooms, we can see that this one is free of a specific cost to participate, but that hotels need to pay a monthly remittance based on the bookings that they receive. And again, this is just a yes/no field, so you need to fill out all of these with whether or not you wish to participate in these consortia. Although there are some fee details listed here, you should check each program's documentation when the RFP comes around to ensure that you understand what it is you're subscribing for and what will be required of you in terms of payment for paid consortia RFPs. So once you've completed that, you can move on to the 2018 rate form. Dependent on how many different room types you want to add, you will fill out this form for the different number of rooms. So if you're only offering one room type, you only need to fill out these fields and these fields. There is a difference between these 2 sets of fields. This top section is for the calendar year, and this second section is for the financial year. So the financial year runs from April through to March, and the calendar year, of course, runs from January through to December. If you're offering sort of 2 rooms for RFPs, then you would do 2 and 3 for 3. Once you've completed those with your rates, you need to fill out the rate criteria section. So the 3-letter currency code that you're offering your rates in. Basic room name. This is a limited list, but you can pick from those, and you'll find that there's 3 of those fields. Whether tax is included in your rates, service is included. For commissionable rates, so consortias, what percentage of commission are you offering? When completing consortia RFPs, do you want us to complete using a percentage off of bar or the consortia rate? So we can see up here that there is a default consortia rate here. And if there's a percentage off bar, then we would set a percentage off of the bar ceiling rates that you have added here. If you choose percentage off of bar, you need to tell us what that percentage is, and also tell us what the default cancellation period is going to be for your hotel. Now, these rates are not actually going to be rates that are offered to a client. These are not going to be specific rates. In the case of RAC, bar ceiling, corporate, consortia, consortia net, and government, these are going to be used for comparison purposes. So in general, these are publicly available rates that any booking entity could find via the GDS or via another system. The reason that these are included on RFPs is so that a consortia or a corporate client can compare what is publicly available in terms of rates for your hotel with the rate that you're offering them. They want to see a comparison to try and understand how good the rate that you're giving them is in the context of what your publicly available rates are like. In these two instances, client LRA and client NLRA, you should just put in a usually equal to corporate rate. We won't use these immediately on RFPs. These client LRA and client non-LRA rates are used just to fill out rate plans so that they can be used for an RFP, but we then, on each individual RFP, we will change the rates to match the rates that you provide to us. So you can just add a generic default rate for that in this case, and we will change it on a per bid basis, and we'll go through the process for telling us that in a moment. And the last sheet on here is blackout dates. So during the year, if you have any default dates that you know that the hotel is not going to be open, for instance, let's say that the hotel is closed on Christmas Day and Boxing Day, you need to list those blackout dates here, and you simply fill it out. So blackout period name, we would put Christmas, and then first day December 25th, last day December 26th, and then the number of days. This is the cumulative number of days. So the 25th and the 26th is 2 days, not 1 day. So from the first day that you're blocked out, which is the first day it's closed, to the last day. So let's say that this was sort of April the 5th until April the 10th. That would be the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th. So that would be 6 days, not 5. So 5 plus 5 being 10. And then you need to rank them by importance. So say Christmas, it's really important that be blacked out because the hotel is actually closed on those days. It's shut down, locked up, and there's nobody there. So you might put that in as number 1. If you have, like, say, a fair period where you know that the volume is expected to be high in your city, or if there's a big cultural event like a music festival or a Grand Prix, you can put those in as well. But maybe rank them lower than you would for periods when you know that the hotel is actually going to be closed. You can have up to 20 blackout periods. It's not advisable to have that many. Try and keep it to things that are really important, because when you come to completing RFPs, or when we come to completing RFPs, there are often limitations on the number of blackout dates, like individual dates, and the number of blackout periods that will be accepted by an RFP. So that's where the ranking comes in. So if for example, you have 5 periods of blacked out dates and the RFP only accepts 2, then the Lanyon system will take the ones that are ranked 1 and 2 and use those. And conversely, if those 5 dates equals 25 blacked out days, but the RFP will only accept 15 blacked out days, then it will go through in order. So it will take 1, 2, 3, and then into 4, up to the maximum limit for the number of blackout dates. So it is important that you list the number of days correctly and that you rank them in order of importance without duplicating it. Don't put 1 for all of them, because otherwise it will simply take them in calendar order So if you rank all of these blackout dates as an importance of 1, we would have to copy that into Lanyon, and then Lanyon will just take them in calendar order. So maybe you have Christmas and New Year when the hotel is physically closed, but then you have some more cultural ones earlier in the year. If you rank them all of the same importance, then it will start at January 1st and count through. So it's unlikely to get to the dates at the end of the year when you're actually closed out. So again, by ranking those actual closed dates as a higher importance, you can ensure that they always get into the RFPs. And that's basically all of the data form. So the next thing we'll have a look at is, what do the invite emails look like when you receive them from supranational hotels? You'll receive an email like this, and this has all the details about your invitation to an RFP. So up at the top it will have the name of your hotel. It tells you what kind of an RFP it is. So in this case it's going to be a free corporate RFP in the Lanyon system. It gives you the deadline date for completing the bid, which is the 27th of April. It gives you the rate plan, so client negotiated LRA, non-LRA. So it's important to bear that in mind, because different RFPs will allow you different kinds of rates, and that will affect the kinds of rates that you want to send to us. And it will also tell you the validity dates. So these rates to be loaded from the 1st of May 2017 until the 30th of June 2018. In the vast majority of cases, RFPs will run from the 1st of January to the 31st of December. So you will have your standard set of rates for that. If there are an odd rate period, so if it runs across a financial year, or in this case where they're running over a very different time period, it's worth looking at that before you send us your rates to complete the bid, because you might need to adjust. I mean, this goes over into a year beyond that which you will have sent us rates for. So you might know that there's going to be a rate increase in there somewhere. So although you are filling it out now, you want to make sure that you have committed the correct rate levels for your hotels to the client. There'll be some other information on here. So if you're an RFP Inclusion subscriber, which you are, you can send us your rates. There's also a training section and a support section. It will also tell you who the email has been sent to. So if somebody is not receiving the emails that they should, you can see here who received a copy of this email, and you can let us know if we need to update our settings for that. So you would receive an email like this, and it's then for you to respond to rfp@supranational.com. So you would reply to this email, and you need to say, you reply to it because obviously the title of the email will have the name of the RFP and it will have the name of your hotel in there. So that helps the staff at Supranational Hotel organise their emails, and they can see what's come in for which hotels and what can be processed. And you need to let us know what rate you want to include. So this is not any of the comparison rates, but where we looked at the data form and we had a look at the rates here, the client LRA and the client non-LRA, while you put generic rates onto this form, this is now what you have got to tell us to use for real on the RFP. So this invite that we've received accepts both LRA and non-LRA rates. So if you had sent in 2 room types and there were 2 sets of rates here, this is what you would need to send us via email. So you would say to us, look, I want to offer £500 for these rates. I want to offer £450 here. I want to offer, and if it was for the next year, you would say, instead of those, I want to offer these. You would also need to let us know on your response to this email if you wanted to offer different inclusions. So let's say that normally your hotel doesn't include meals, or it doesn't include internet, but because this is a particularly new client for you, or it's someone that you've worked with for a long time and you want to ensure that business, if there's a difference between the inclusions that you put onto your data form, so in here where there are things like including the internet. So is wireless included in the negotiating room? If you said no on this initially, that's what we would go with when we complete your RFP, unless you tell us on your response email with your rates, you say this rate should include wireless for these guests, and there are a number of other things. So what breakfast is breakfast included in the negotiated rate? Again, if you'd said no here, but you do want to include it, you need to tell us that so that when we fill out the RFP, we can make those changes for you. If you're not sure about a client, you can always respond to this email and ask for more details, and we can try and provide you with the program documentation. Or if you have a look at the licensed Lanyon training video that we have, you'll be able to see how to review that information for yourself. Other than that, it's very advisable that you get your response back to us as soon as possible, so that we can take care of the bid as quickly as possible. By far and away, the hotels that get their bids back sooner have a much better conversion rate. So hotels that submit their bids to clients closer to the date when the RFP is issued than to when the deadline is, have a much better conversion rate. You will be more successful in getting your bids in. And there's a number of different reasons for that, mostly because it helps the client to take more time to assess your bid and to discuss with you what changes they might need for the bid, or what things you might additionally be able to offer. So it gives you more of a time to work on the bid with the corporate clients and with supranational hotels to make sure that it's as good as possible when it goes in, and as satisfactory to you as it can be. Whereas a hotel in your city who you're competing with, who only sends in their RFP on the 27th of April, on the deadline day, there's not going to be much time for the corporation or the TMC involved to look at that bid. So unless it's really good the first time, they are going to be behind in the process. And the reason corporates and consortia and TMCs put in this series of dates is so that they can be sure that at each point in the process they know where they are, they can report back to the people that they work for, they can give ideas on budgeting, they can talk about those options, and the sooner your bid is in, the more you can be included in that process, which, as I say, it vastly improves your ability or vastly improves your chances of having your bid looked at more thoroughly and being engaged in a conversation with that corporate partner. So what happens then? You receive this invite email, you send us the rates, hopefully the same day, but within a day or two you send us back the rates and any additional inclusions. We will then take care of completing the RFP for you, and we will then reply to you and say, okay, we've added your rates, we've checked the inclusions and everything. We just need you to complete the custom questions on this RFP. So RFPs tend to have custom questions. So these are questions that we cannot include on the data form because they are specific to any particular client. So for example, Pepsi often ask in their custom questions whether the bar is a Pepsi pouring bar or a Coke pouring bar, because that's important to them and to their travellers to know that their product is in use at the hotel. So rather than have to go through a long back and forth, the step that you take is you would then come into Lanyon just to complete these custom questions, and at most there's usually sort of 20 to 30. More commonly there's 5 or 6 of them, and as I say, these tend to just be very specialised questions that a corporate or a consortium or a TMC want to know because it's important to this client for one reason or another. So if you have a look at our Lanyon licensed training video, you'll see how to navigate through Lanyon, and there's a much broader overview of how to get to this section of Lanyon in that video. So we see here RFP Training 1, so this is the RFP that we want to look at, and it's on a status of in progress. So all we need to do to answer these custom questions is we'll choose Edit Bid, and then another window will open like this, and we will simply rescale this. Okay, so we can see that there are 4 questions here. Now these are quite broad questions, but this is a test RFP, so they don't have specific questions, but they would be more specific than sort of the hotel property code. But all you need to do is you need to fill out these questions with their answers. If you're not sure what's being asked, you can always send us an email and ask us for further clarification. Usually for custom questions, the question mark won't actually work. In this case, if I click on question mark, I actually do get a description of what this field is for and how it's filled out. But custom questions being exactly that, custom, there is not that support functionality built into the bid. So you're always free to ask us questions about what's being asked in any particular field, and we'll always endeavour to help. So I will just quickly fill these out. Okay, so I've filled out all of my fields, and then choose Save Changes to load those changes onto the bid. And you can see that the colour of the field answer changed there from light yellow into white. So now that I've answered all of these questions, I can choose Next in the bottom right hand corner, and this is going to bring up the final page of the bid. So the last step that we need to take in assessing this bid is we're going to have a look through the bid and check that everything on this bid is going to meet with my requirements for my hotel for this RFP. So at the top here, we have the rate plan. So you'll be able to see the rate that's being offered to the client, and you'll be able to see whichever rates are being used for comparison rates. So in this instance, this training RFP, they want to see what the publicly available government or military rate is, and they're going to compare that with the rate that's being offered by the client. You can see the other variables that have been selected for this rate plan. And then in the bottom section, we have a recreation of the bid, and we can change which ones we're seeing. So custom, blank, mandatory and fee would show us just those fields. So the fields that are custom fields, any mandatory fields and any fee fields, and we can see what answers have been given for those. And if we change to all, we'll be able to see every field on the RFP, and we'll be able to see all of the information. So it's all, the onus is on you to double check that everything is okay here. So you will want to check, at least in general, you'll want to check any inclusions that you specifically want included, and you will have just answered any of the custom questions, but you would also be able to check those. These field numbers are the same all the way through, of course. So the custom question field numbers that you would have seen on the previous screen will line up over here, and they always start at 244. Once you've been through all of this and you've reviewed everything and you're happy with it, you have a tick box here to say that you've reviewed the bid, its terms and conditions, and you have approved it for submission. And then you choose Complete Bid. This will then put your hotel on a status of approved, which is as far as you will be able to take a bid. You won't actually be able to submit it directly. I'm going to click Complete Bid. I will get a slightly different window because I'm a system user rather than a direct hotel user. So I will just choose to set this to approved so that you can see here. You will then see that your RFP has become approved pending submit, at which point you are not going to be able to take the bid any further, and somebody at Supranational Hotels will submit this bid for you. Once you have filled out this, once you've filled out your custom questions and you've approved the bid, if you send us an email to say I've now completed the bid, we will be able to take care of submitting that to the client as soon as possible. So that concludes our look at the RFP inclusion process. I hope that's been helpful for you. If you have any questions, you can send them to rfp@supranational.com. And otherwise, I wish you well for the upcoming RFP season.